Good afternoon. Today is Monday, August 27th, 2018. It is 1 p.m. and we're here for the regular trustee meeting. We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we have an agenda before us. The only thing I'll ask is that one last time, hopefully we defer the meeting minute approval until Mr. Roberts is back so that we have the full board for that. Are there any other changes, additions, modifications?
Board, I have two. The pre-scheduled speaker had a family emergency today, is not able to attend.
Okay.
I'll work with Commander Scott Anger to reschedule that. And then I would like to add an executive session at the end of the meeting for Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee.
Appointment, employment, and compensation, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other changes? If not, I accept a motion to accept it as amended.
So moved.
Give a second.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
I move to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $331,404.48 for the August 15th, 18 payroll.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.
I move to accept the payment listing reports in the amount of $42,808 for warrants through 8/14 of 18.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. And at this time, we have, we'll move on to citizens desiring to speak. Seeing none, we'll close that. We have no old business, no new business, and we'll move on to the administrator and the sheriff's office.
Thank you, Board. On page 5 of your packet begins the biweekly report for the sheriff's office. We'll point out that Captain Prawl is here to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions relative to the
I don't have any
report?
questions relative to the report, but I would like to volunteer sometime in October to do a ride-along with the sheriff's department.
It's not a problem. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
Would you want to ride in your township or anywhere?
I think more particular in the township.
Okay, not a problem.
See the runs and just to get a visual of the patrols and things that you guys do.
Okay, not a problem.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Any awareness items that you need to bring to us as far as
Off the
things
top.
we need to be concerned about as far as elevated or increase in incidents and specific situations we need to be
No,
concerned
we've
about?
not seen an increase in any
Okay.
particular offense.
Okay. And as far as our interdiction efforts, is there anything we need to do in addition to what we're already doing?
No, as you know, we've got a new dog within the last several months, and that dog is really picking it up and really starting to do well.
Okay.
And he's working along with Deputy Chris Moore, your township deputy, who's really motivated towards interdiction, and together they're working real hard in this area. So.
Okay. Good. The any concerns as we go back into the school year that we need to address, at least with the school that's in the unincorporated portion, or any of our schools that you might be called upon?
No particular concern. I could say that at the end of the summer, the sheriff's office, including all the township deputies, did train an active threat response successfully, and we've assigned the deputies to the speed zones and to be the area of schools when children are gathering before and at the end of the school day. And so far, they've been real successful at being present, being visible, and doing what they can to help.
Okay. And with the, I think it's the Haunted Classic, is that what? So
In October.
That's coming up. So we have special deputies and plenty. As far as coverage, we're set for that event.
I'm not sure it's been assigned yet.
Okay.
The posting usually comes down. It's usually a couple weeks ahead of the event, but it's usually full-timers and a few specials that do work them.
Okay.
So.
And just based on other events we've had in the last year there? Is there anything special we need to do, or anything in addition that we need to prepare for, either from the fire EMS side or from your side that you'd recommend as far as observations?
The fire's always Johnny on the spot out there. They're usually on scene, and they have their mobile vehicles to get to the fields, and we're handling the traffic and any complaints that come up inside the complex, and it usually runs really smooth. We work together well with the fire department and everything else.
And they have not, the soccer group has not requested anything additional or extraordinary compared to what's been done? their
Not that I'm
traditional,
aware of, no.
Coverage, okay. And then just final pass on appreciation to the sheriff with regards to some recent, we had a few recent inquiries from residents just regarding sheriff vehicles traversing through their neighborhoods, and appreciate the quick response, so.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Just
Thank you.
Board, a heads up on that topic. Next meeting, we'll have a pre-scheduled speaker from the BSA.
Good.
For their annual request to waiver some tent fees, but also give us an update on the
Okay.
event
And that's,
itself.
yeah, that's, I presume that was coming, so that's why I kinda wanted
Yeah.
to head off with, is there anything we need to do proactively, in addition to what we've done in the past?
Yeah, there's nothing that, when I spoke to them, nothing new this year.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, the city of Beavercreek has the COPP volunteers. Does the sheriff department have any formal volunteer programs?
We have a special deputy program, which is actually a step above the COPP program because they're certified law enforcement officers. They receive all the training and all the equipment that a full-time deputy does. Obviously, they would be without the day-to-day full-time experience, but they are certified, and they do help out a lot of events, such as soccer events or different events around the county.
Okay.
But we don't have the only non-law enforcement volunteer program we have is our mounted patrol. So,
Thank you.
yep.
The one last question, I guess, from an active shooter standpoint, and appreciate what you've done in the schools. And so, but looking at an event where thousands of people essentially congregate, is there any proactive training that should be done for the organizers of events like that, such as like a soccer event or something, where you've got literally thousands of people in a contained spot
I think it would
in
be
an open
important.
field area?
Looking forward, maybe, because we are, like I said earlier, we're expanding our ability at the sheriff's office. We're going to train some new trainers as far as responding to active threat. But we also have a community relations deputy that is trained in the ALICE program, responding and teaching civilians how to react different stages of reaction to an active threat.
And part of that comes from, obviously, people get upset at a video gaming event, and all of a sudden, what happens when your child gets hurt on a field?
You're right. It's the last report I heard, it was over in 30 seconds. So your decisions have got to be done fast. And so having the information in your head as far as an organization or a leader of an event, and having your staff aware of how to react immediately.
Communications,
Yeah.
right? Being able to communicate to a large group like that quickly.
Because obviously when the shooting's done, then the work begins of, if the threat's eliminated, then it's the response to save lives, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd appreciate if you can just keep that in mind as
Yep.
you work forward through that, all of the training and everything else that you're trying to accomplish. So,
Yes,
thank you.
thank you.
So you're too far away, so will you spell your last name for me, please?
It's Prahl, P as in Peter, R-A-L-L.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 16, is the Human Resource Activity Report. Are there any questions?
I had none. Ms. Wallace.
The only one I had is on your report. You had, on number 1, you stated that you worked on compensation claims for 2018 workers' comp, and then again on number 6. There's 3 different claims then?
We have 2 that are active.
All right, so you kind of double.
Oh, the BWC safety grant is something entirely different. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the safety grant is different than a claim. The
Oh.
safety grant is something that we're applying for to try to get COTS for the fire department.
Okay, then on number 1 it says clam 2.
No,
There's two
active
claims.
claims for
But it says
2018.
clam.
Oh, well, I
that's
can
just
fix, yeah,
yeah,
it's just a typo,
typos?
Yeah, it's
just
just
a
a typo.
typo.
Because based on what is written in theirs, it seems like 1 and 6 are the same thing.
No,
But if
one
it's-
is reporting the
is
number of
reporting
claims.
but
One's
it's-
just reporting the number of
That's just a
claims.
typo
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Right, well,
Claim
one,
versus
the reason,
clam.
we report the claims because the board wants to stay aware of it. In the
Right.
past, they've asked to be aware of the number of claims that we have throughout the year. So that, number one is just, you know, you'll notice the number go up if we receive another claim.
Sure,
And number 6 is the,
actually
Claim.
working on them.
Is that I'm working on a claim, correct?
There's one claim.
oh, there's claim. So there's no such word as clam, that's all typo.
It's a typo.
CLAIM.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
Yep.
That's a
claim.
typo.
Yeah, 6 is work on BWC CLAIM claim. And then number 1 is to workers' compensation claim, which should be claims, plural.
Okay, thank
Other-
you.
Otherwise,
All right, that's it.
That's all I had.
thank you.
Thank you, board. Next item starts on page 18 is the biweekly report for the zoning department. Mr. Amrine does have an update on the build-out data.
Good afternoon, Board. In general, I'd say that it's time for a large update to that build-out report. We've simply been subtracting numbers as we get permits in. It's time for us to get out in the township and confirm those numbers. This morning, I was able to confirm that there are 59 parcels in Woodridge rather than 63, and therefore the correct number of shovel-ready sites remaining is 27, not 31.
Okay.
But we need to do that kind of checking for all the subdivisions in the township.
Yeah, maybe on a quarterly basis or something, just so
Right.
not a, doesn't.
Time for
I
an
would- I would
update.
recommend at least made a quarterly or no less than semi-annually. But the, one question for you, so, and we'll just use Woodridge as an example. As a developer is going through those motions and we run into issues where lots become unusable, what happens to those tracts? I mean, as far as, they've been recorded as a lot. Obviously, just from your standpoint, probably a once a year housekeeping of, have you lost any lots due to what development or where they cannot be developed?
Right. In my tenure here, I can't recall that we've ever legally transferred a lot from the status of being a buildable lot to a non-buildable lot.
I didn't know if it was to the developer's advantage to then take that undevelopable lot, and I don't know if that's even a word, but.
And call it open space. or-
Count it as green space.
Right. And I suppose theoretically it could be advantageous, but those calculations are all done way in advance of the approval of the subdivision in the first place. Where the developer would benefit from additional green space is the credit that he or she needs to build the parcel, to
Upfront.
build the subdivision in the first place. For example, there are 2 parcels in the Woodland Hills Conservancy subdivision that are effectively unbuildable, one of which, for example, has drainage ditches that crisscross the parcel from corner to corner, all 4 corners occupied. Nominally, it's a buildable parcel. Theoretically, you could find a small building envelope there. Does anybody want to do that? No. And finally, that parcel got resolution just recently by the fact that it was acquired by a neighbor who has now taken the first steps to combining the 2 parcels. So that parcel will go away,
Sure.
but it won't be either buildable or open space lot. It'll simply be incorporated into an otherwise private
Okay.
parcel.
Okay. Any other questions on zonings bi-weekly?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any resolution, or we get any response, I'm sorry, from the developer in Arlington relative to the trees in the brush?
No, we're we're interviewing contractors now
Okay,
with the thought of sending them out on our own
okay.
to mitigate the violations.
Perhaps, is your intent to try to make one last attempt to communicate
We
with the
will do
developer?
that. We
What might be
will
helpful-
notify the developer that we are taking that step and
Okay.
give them one last chance
And-
to
And
comply.
what might be helpful is if you have a quote or two from the tree experts, or
Yep.
to attach that to it and say, this is what you will be assessed.
Yeah, we're awaiting those quotes now.
Good.
Yep,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
That way at least no one can say you didn't tell me,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Board. Next item is on page 23. It's the purchase request for software solutions. Budget justification starts on page 23. With some additional information that was discussed and requested at the special meeting on August 6th. There is a motion on page 24.
I had a
Go ahead.
question to Christie. Is this money sitting in the budget, or you have to do more transfers? Is it in the line item, or?
I haven't looked at it, to be honest, to see if it is. I don't
Alex,
know.
was this a budget line item?
This was not a budgeted line item as discussed at the August 6th meeting, that would be taken from contingencies and transferred. It would be cost allocated amongst fire, general, and road.
So if this software gets approved and we get put it in, we won't have to do so much contingency transfers?
No, it has a control that won't allow a transfer. It has to go through a separate process. And it'll be less exhausting to go through that process. It puts it on the user to make the request. And then, as mentioned in the spreadsheet, we can set up as many level controls of authority where it needs to go for approval process.
When the original purchase request is submitted, if there's not enough money in that line item, essentially it sends the alert and triggers that, hey, you have to seek approval for a transfer and have the approval transferred, and then there's an automated process that kicks through.
Because that's what was my major concern on this, is that we don't, I want to have a budget process where we have line item dollars that's allocated in the line item, and we shouldn't be doing all those contingency transfers as I saw in the budget office.
Correct.
With those piles of.
One thing that the fiscal office staff and I like about this is that this will give you real-time data. So if there's $1,000 for a line item and someone before them put a $500 request in, but it hasn't been approved, it already knows that it's in the system, and it already is saying, wait a second. So the next guy who comes in and says, okay, I want to put a $600 request in, it will deny it based on that process in what we were calling in the August 6th meeting as a funnel. We'll know what's in the funnel.
And I think that's really important for the township to make sure that we go to that way instead of having all those contingency transfers. It's important to know exactly what's in the budget and what we've allocated and how much money is left, so. Any other questions on
But to
this?
cap onto that, there's also a process that even though somebody puts in a request to purchase something, even though there's money in the line item, they really can't purchase anything until they get the okay back
Right,
from the fiscal office.
I get that.
So even though it may come up and say, yeah, there's money in the line item that you can buy it, they still have to wait till there's approval, I guess.
All the approvals are,
Yeah.
I get that. I
So
just,
the new terminology that staff and that the township is going to have to use, it's going to be a requisition.
right,
Now, once the requisition process goes through and there's approval, then it will issue in order in regards to purchase request. It will then issue back a purchase request number. Then whoever's making that request has to fill out that process before moving forward. So there will, if approved, and we start working on this and set up level authorities, there will be a change to the policy, much like we did with the timekeeping software for the township. And it's just going to say that here's what you need to do, here's the process. If you want something, you have to use the software, and it'll list everything that we have to do in regards to the policy.
Any questions?
I know we've talked about this for, at least the last 4.5 years, as far as migrating to something more, modern, robust, and, powerful than what we have. The biggest question I have, is this something that fiscal officer supports, and do you want this? Do you want this, software package, and do you support it, and will you implement it and use it?
I did reach out and I did talk to several places who have SSI. I do like the software. I do like the funnel approach. I do have concerns that you can spend a lot of money, but if you don't change how the process is before you get to the system, it's not going to change what you do. So right now, I think it will help with if a firefighter or a zoning clerk or somebody in my office buys something and you do a purchase request, and you go through the system will work. My question is, what if you don't follow the system? Because if you don't follow the system, and we were just talking about changing the policy, so that's great. It'll be, the steps will be put in the new policy, but there has to be something that says if you don't follow the policy, what happens?
You'll be subject to discipline, period.
Because that's my issue, is if we can't all follow the system, then it doesn't work.
It was the same concern and questions we had when we were talking about OSL. That's why we did a policy change, and we made it clear to the employees, you want overtime, you want to take vacation, you have to put it in the system. Same thing, it'll be the same kind of language in an updated policy that will not only, it'll have some procedural things, but then if someone doesn't follow it, then they're subject to discipline.
But normally, to purchase anything, it has to be written or approved by a supervisor and then a department head. So normally, I don't remember, I mean, being new on this, I don't remember seeing anything that was purchased by an individual to come through here.
Correct. So there's the paper process, which is what we're trying to get away from, because a lot of times we're spending a lot of staff time tracking down in packing slips, purchase requests that might have been sent to the wrong place, the wrong, it's triplicate form here. Sometimes it's filled out incorrectly. Those are all going to hopefully be catched with a policy and the software. So we'll not only know who approved it, but if, for example, if there's a denial, there'll be a box for the denial and the reason for the denial. So we'll be able to track that. Right now, if it's denied, I mean, one of the department heads could come to me and say, I want to purchase this, and I can say no. There's no documentation on any reason why I said no. Maybe I was having a bad day. I don't, So this will track and give reasons. Just like in OSL, if I deny leave or a supervisor denies leave, there's a section in there to put the reason why. In OSL, we're able to track all the way down to projects. So if an employee's working on a project that, let's say, creates overtime, and it's not related to operation, we can track to say, okay, this is how much we spend in overtime on this cost. All that information in OSL. I did talk to a fiscal officer up in the Columbus area who uses a very similar township to our size. She was saying what she likes is one dump a year. She can take all the pay core information and upload it into VIP. So we'll have all our, the overtime, the sick leave usage, everything could be updated into the software. So we'll have a lot more detail. And the other advantage of this, it's our data. And this is a little frustration I've been running into is the product we currently use, it's kind of our data, but they won't share it to usable data. So the township will own the data here in regards to this software. And we're looking for, build out 4 to 6 months. Probably more to 6.
So are we looking at implementing this When would a go-live date be?
Don't know yet. One thing we have to get is 4 other data points that, for SQL. We will be able to do, we have 10 years of certain data in SQL, and we'll be able to get some data, or excuse me, not some data, we'll get 7 years of data, but there are 4 areas that we're still working on that we're probably gonna have to convert, which is what staff's doing now, on a weekly or bi-weekly or a monthly basis, is taking the PDF data from UAN, washing it in another software, and then converting it to data, usable data in SQL. So what we're gonna have to do now is take those data fields that are missing from that SQL data that VIP needs, I'm sorry, Software Solution needs, and we're gonna work on getting that, which is gonna create some staff time.
Sure, okay. So-
Everybody out there is willing
Yeah,
to.
let me go back to the questions of Ms. Aarons though. So the purchase requisition component is one piece of it. The budget development and management tools is another piece, which is kind of the front end to some of what your department is having some pain with now. This one, just need to sign on this third page was missed. And then the forecasting and the management tools of the software obviously are quite a bit different, with hierarchy, so of reporting that and access that individuals can have or not have. So I guess the real question is, overall, do you want the board to purchase this software? Are you asking us to purchase this software? Because ultimately, I can believe, Alex can believe, the chief, roads department, everyone can believe that it will help, but ultimately, there will be users of it, not administrators of it. So if you don't support it, there's no reason for us to spend $1 on it, in my opinion.
We think it's 2 different questions. I didn't ask for this, so I'm not asking you for it. However, you did task your administrator as part of the NOVAC group to search and find out about things like this, so he has done that, and he has brought that information back to you, and as part of that process, I have been brought into it. So I am cautiously optimistic that this could be a good step in the right direction for the township. Like I said, there's, are we losing some things? Are we, I think I heard we're getting rid of Firehouse, or is there other offsets, or, are there other things that are no longer gonna be needed because you're bringing this on? It is quite a bit more than what we spend on UAN. I do recognize the limitations for your accounting. I understand for the administrator, his budgeting side and his forecasting side, this is great. So do I see the benefit? I see the potential benefit, yes.
Okay.
Well, I
So-
want to thank all of you for contributing and working together, both departments, on researching the different software, talking. I am pretty sure you all talked to different people that use it and got feedback on it, and I think that you've worked well together on coming up with a solution.
Have we decided, are you using the same, my suggestion, I would like to use the same, how we number. I understand that you can create your own numbering system for this program, but my suggestion, I would want to keep everything the same. I would want our history to stay the same, our numbers to be the same, moving forward. I don't want to start over with a whole new accounting system with line 1 being line 1. So is that a concern that you've discussed?
Well, it's one of the data fields that are gonna be brought into the software, so I don't think the number's gonna change. We have, it's 54 in regards to numbers now, and then the character fields are long too, so I think we have like 54 numbers, so we've got plenty of numbers, so if we, down the road, if we add codes or line items, we can add to those. So that's one, and then the characters, the more we are able to pull in from SQL data that the fire department's been doing for years, and bringing that in, the easier the implementation's gonna be. So, and that's what they want. They don't want us to sit, and nor do they, want us to recreate the wheel. They wanna be able to make this as seamless as possible. And that's one of the things that we're not collecting in the current SQL data that we'll have to work. There's 4 areas. One is purchase order numbers. The other is vendor information, so we don't have to have somebody type them all in.
But as far as establishing prefix, suffix for how you.
It is it's
Okay.
customizable to whatever we want.
Okay.
That's the short answer. I
And
forget
then
the 2 other fields that they were missing, but we've already talked with staff about which 2. There's 4 altogether. We're looking at, I think 2, I don't recall the 2 today.
And then keeping that, obviously, we use a budget where we go January to December of 1 year. That's our annual budget. So I think when they were in at the special meeting, their implementation was 9 months, 8, 9 months, which seems definitely with as much data that we might have, that we're probably pushing out, which is good because my office couldn't stand to look at this until at least March of next year to, be transitioning.
Right.
So,
The biggest unknown for them when they do that is the data
Conversion.
That's the biggest unknown, and we're going to give them as much as we can. Staff has agreed to get those 4 fields that they're missing and go ahead and convert them from either whatever the export it would be. So let's say PDF from UAN, and then wash it through our system and put it in, and then that will take a lot of time off what they have to do. Then it's testing it. So the nice part I like about this software, of the 3 that we looked at, only 2 of them had, and this was one of them that had the sandbox, if you will, so that if we have a new employee come on in any department, they can play in the sandbox. They can learn how to use the system. They can do some test requisitions, and then, but it doesn't touch the live site at all. So.
In all honesty, I'm accustomed to that in any software of this level. That it's a value, it's a feature, but I don't want to make it that it's so extraordinary of an accomplishment that they created a test site or a training
No,
site.
it's just,
So
I didn't even put it in.
it's an advantage.
Yeah, I didn't even put it in a
definitely, but-
side-by-side comparison. I mean, it's
Right.
just, there's so many other features that,
Right.
that are available, that we witnessed in the 2 presentations. I mean, staff spent, including the fiscal office staff, during the presentation, it was a 3-hour presentation for us, because we were just question, and
Right.
testing the system. Yes, but
Well, I
it's
mean,
just one advantage
Yep.
that I think we get. I don't think it's the only reason by far, it's not the reason why we made the decision to go there.
Right. Overall, I mean, I'm excited that we have the opportunity. Like I said, to me, the most valuable endorsement is a show of support and a commitment that you'll work with it. And I've been through implementations before. There will be problems. There always are. So, but as long as everybody's working together to get through it, it generally works out. So the key support we need is from the fiscal officer. So, do we have your support?
I think I said that, but yes,
You'll
I'll
commit?
say
I
it
didn't-
again.
Okay, I didn't hear it, yeah, okay, I just wanted a commitment that you'll support it, so, before I approve it.
okay, after a lot of discussion, careful consideration and recommendation from all of township staff, I make a motion to approve purchase request 9659 to Software Solution for Visual Intelligence Portfolio Software in the amount of $84,650, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second,
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
yes.
Board, on behalf of the staff, I would like to thank you to all the elected officials. This was something that we've been working hard, taking time out of everybody's busy day to sit with me and Jan and look at these softwares, and so I want to thank them as well as the elected officials.
Recommendations I would have would be to time it to a quarter, to have a delineation mark between old and new, to make sure that you preserve the old, so that you have a look back if you need it, and to not go too far into the new year. Obviously, in my opinion, I would I would start out fresh on a new quarter, but to not go too far into the new year so that you don't end up with 1/4 of the year reported one way, 3/4 of the year reported the other one. And if they can pull in those, first 1, 2, 3 months, so that you have a fresh start. How does that work then as far as, we pay UAN a flat fee at the beginning of the year, monthly, at the end of the year?
Quarterly.
So we pay quarterly, so that would time well with that as, so. And I would not be opposed if there was a recommendation that we, keep UAN alive 1 quarter after we go live, so that you have the ability if needed. But I would also suggest that you cut that cord. You have a hard date when you do cut it, and you move forward with the challenges and the training issues that may or may not occur. So.
Thank you, Board. I will be coming back with, there could be some back to business cost to this. I don't know that yet, since we're right in the middle of doing phase 1. So back to business is aware of this project, and if it was approved, they'll work with Software Solutions if there's any implementation costs on back to business side.
Okay. On the topic of back to business, on the management summary, the backup health is still showing poor. And so we talked about this would have been corrected when we fixed the backup problem. Is the report wrong, or is the backup health that bad?
And I spoke with Back to Business. The report is wrong. They have a ticket with their software company. This management report uses their software that is loaded on every computer in the township. It goes out and tests the system and then generates this report. It has not updated in quite some time. They admit that. They are working on the issue now with the software that they use and the provider. I will tell you on the backup, it's done weekly, and it is tested weekly. They restore it weekly to see if it works.
Okay. If
And that's done every
the
Friday.
backup health is actually healthy, are the other ones actually unhealthy?
Well, we don't know yet.
Okay.
So I
That's-
wouldn't rely on page
that's the question.
29 or 30.
Okay.
You can rely on 31. That's the report I put together for the board.
Okay. If you can just ask them to maybe either on a monthly or quarterly basis to audit that software to make sure it is collecting and reporting.
I will be honest with you, the staff was unaware that I had access to this report. The higher-ups knew that I had access to
Okay.
the report, so.
But we do read it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's what I told
Okay.
them. And then the tickets on 31 and 42, I will just update you, phase 1 of the project is moving right along. I've been placed under the phase 1 and testing it. I haven't run into any issues yet, so they're going to start rolling out the rest of the computers for the township.
Okay. Road department.
Can I ask a
Sure.
question?
Yes.
So does this mean that, so I have issues every time, and it seems like the fiscal office, we have a lot of IT issues. So now going from this cloud software to having an actual computer, is that gonna alleviate the problem? Is that gonna make things better so that, Jan doesn't have to log off of whatever she's doing for an hour to let it reboot to come back up? Or like when I try to just log on to my email, I can't, the server's not right, and is it gonna make it any easier so that when you turn on the computer, you can actually just get to your
That was the
homepage?
presentation that Back to Business gave in the special meeting. There are 2 things. One, the software is going to be loaded on the desktops themselves. The only thing that will go back to a individual server, and the software will go back. So, for example, OSL right now is across 3 servers. Once phase 1 is complete, it will be on 1 server. So the software will be loaded onto a computer, laptop, whatever it may be. And then when you make a change, everything goes back to that 1 server. Instead of 3 servers trying to communicate with each other. And then one day I may log into server 1, next day I may log into server 2. Right now I just will be logging into my computer and then we'll go back. In regards to the fiscal office, we are going to wait till phase 1's done. Like Jan's computer is still on Office, whatever, not 365. So once we get phase 1 completed, we'll be going and updating all those. to make sure they're correct. So they are building three type of logins. They'll have the software is loaded, so we'll have the department heads on up, and then at mid-level that will have certain software. So our firefighters and road department employees will have different logins, but they'll have a template. So anytime we load a new computer, change the computer, they can load that template on there. They'll have all the shortcuts and everything else.
I think what you described is how the problems with email or OSL might get better, but if I understood the question correctly, it's with software solutions accessing that, you strictly need access to the internet, correct?
Software solutions.
The VIP, the new
No.
software, the new cloud-based software, so
It
that'll be.
is through a web browser. So if
Okay,
your web
through a
browser,
browser.
your web browser will go. Now, we'll still have to have internal, but it will not go outside the township for broadband. But yes, if I was at Station 63 and I
Correct.
log in to the VIP software, it will look the same as if I logged into my office. If I make a change or approve something, and then it goes back to one server.
You answered my question.
Yeah.
Because right now, like I said, they log into 3 different screens to try to figure out where they need to
Right.
go. And like I said, I can't even get into my email on a computer up in that office. So it's fine,
Yeah.
we work it out. Just there has to be a someday, right, where we get to a place where you turn on your computer and that's where you need to be.
Correct.
I'm assuming that's what we're working
Well,
on.
and that's exactly what I'm testing right now. Because
Okay.
all the software, I touch every software in the township.
Right.
So those have been loaded on my device. I'm testing them now. So when I log in, I log right into, like you would at home, to a computer that's protected. But I have the actual programs loaded on my hard drive. So one, you'll see, speed. So if I'm doing something, if everybody in the township logs into OSL at once and it's going to make a change, once it'll update back to the server, but I won't have a slowdown like I see potentially now. Multiple people are using the same server.
So you're saying by the end of phase 1, we should see some kind of change, and
And
you're
then-
anticipating that to be when?
Well,
If you're
phase
just
one was
testing
approved.
now,
Yeah, I'm just
yeah, I
in the
get
testing
that.
phase.
By the end of the year?
Yeah, oh yeah, we want to get they set aside a month and a half to get all the computers. Now we got half the computers are coming in right now, so they got to go in and start loading up all the lab tech. That's the software they use, lab tech agent, and depending if it's rolling out to a fire station or rolling into a department head or supervisor.
Thank you.
And that'll help also each laptop or computer or Surface has its own video card. So right now, everybody in the township uses the same video card that's in the secret place in this basement. So
Okay.
we should see some improvement issues.
Roads Department.
Thank you,
Good
Board.
afternoon.
First item's on page 32, purchase request for garage doors and openers for Station 63. Mr. Parks, here's the answer. Any questions?
First question was, are the doors in so bad of shape that we have to replace the door and all of the rails and openers, or can we just replace the rails, the openers, and?
It's a
and
combination of
safety
all three,
edge?
depending on, over the last 6 months, it's a hinge this time, or the door shifts, or the rails out of the whack. It's our recommendation to go ahead and replace them all, because right now we're spending probably $1,000 to $1,500 a month in repairs over the last 6 months
On that station, on those
on
seven
that
doors?
station.
And they're what, 18 years old or more?
Yeah. Station was built in 1979, occupied early 2000s. And the thing is, those doors probably go up 10, 12 times a day, most of them.
The other question I had was if you'd considered, I saw the 3 quotes and I appreciate those and I understand why you selected the one you selected, and I think that, I've heard good things about them. I don't have any experience with them, good or
Yeah,
bad.
actually, 2 of them are current vendors we use for repairs, which
Is
is
Highfield one of
Highfield
them?
and Dayton Door Sales.
Yeah, Dayton Door, I recognize the name, but did you consider a Wayne Dalton or a Clopay door?
Actually, Dayton Door Sales is a Clopay dealer.
Okay,
We spoke to them today, and they were saying it depends on what specials are going on or whatever, depending on the
vendor
price.
promos,
what promos.
Okay. Manufacturer pros, yeah.
So this is the door they came back and recommended
Okay.
over a Clopay. Wayne Dalton, to be honest with you, didn't even know they existed.
Okay.
Actually going back and looking, there is a dealer in Centerville, then the next one's Lebanon,
Wayne doors, yeah.
and then from there it goes.
They're not close by, so.
Right.
And the only reason I had mentioned those names, specifically Wayne Dalton, when you build RV and boat storage, you typically use Wayne Dalton doors, because of cost, and
Right.
they're fairly durable.
And actually, if memory serves, we had Wayne Doors as one of our contractors at one time, and their service was not up to par.
Sure. Yep, it was just a suggestion, so, because of the dollar amount.
Right, and actually, the door that Highfield Door is recommending is a CHI overhead door, commercial grade door, urethane corm filled. Actually, Highfield we haven't used a whole lot, but the one nice advantage to them is they offer 24/7 service.
Okay. The only thing else that you might consider, and I don't know and it may not apply, is, and I believe LiftMaster offers it and Chamberlain offer it, is that there is are these chain driven or are these direct drive? On the
Chain driven, I do believe.
Okay. It probably wouldn't apply then. On their direct drive, they offer a lifetime warranty on the opener,
Right, and
even for commercial, but it's on the more expensive opener.
That was my question, is what
Right,
kind of
and-
warranties do we have with these doors?
in speaking to, and we're waiting to hear back from Highfield, but all the other ones, it's a 1 year parts and labor, and then a 10-year on the mechanisms, the door and the opener,
Sure.
which is, to be honest, we've pushed the life expectancy of these doors by almost 5 years. Should have been done 5 years ago. So
Normally you hit them before then, so. At least in my family.
knock on wood, we've had a few hit, but usually we hit the concrete pillar outside the building before
Yeah.
we get into the door.
What about, you have why do we have to put windows in there? Is
It
that the
gives-
only light that's coming in that
Well,
station?
there's no windows in the bays per se at that station, so that gives some indirect light from the
'Cause it's more
outside.
expensive with windows in the doors usually.
Yeah, but you want some kind of natural light coming into the space.
Yeah, I get that. I just was wondering if we can save a little bit of money by not messing with the windows.
Any other questions?
There is a motion on page 32.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 09156 to Highfield Door Sales for garage doors and openers at Station 63 in the amount of $39,400, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kreis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 36, bi-weekly report. Are there any questions?
I did not have any questions to Mr. Oh, I know. Just to put on a priority list, I talked to Mr. Zaharoff. The enclosures are down around the garbage bins out here. The wood,
Yeah, we're currently working on that. One of the problems we're facing, when they built this station, they actually put the meter and all the associated wiring
Nice.
on the fence. So we're currently working on getting a quote to put a block brick wall in the back and then fence around the rest. So that's in process.
okay, 'cause I saw it all
Yeah.
down over here when I pulled in, and it
Yeah.
looked kinda tacky.
Yeah, it does, and we've been working on it for a while. We actually were gonna do block and brick all the way around it until we got our quotes back, and the cheapest one was $32,000. So we decided to go a different direction.
Just this side.
Yeah, we're just gonna do it on this side because I don't know how that ever happened, because it should either be on the building or on some kind of concrete block instead of on fencing.
So that's a good note to make sure we watch for that on 65.
65's, everything will be fenced enclosure, so but it's not mounted on the fence. It'll be mounted on the building with secure area, which will include the air conditioning units, any utilities, and the tower. will all
And do
be
we have it
enclosed.
bricked in, or is it gonna be wooded in?
It's gonna be wood
Wooded.
with locked gate.
But the utilities, like currently out here that are mounted on the fence, will be mounted on the building itself.
Yeah.
Which will get us away from this kind of situation.
Yeah, I get that. I don't have any other questions.
The one thing is kudos on the library, so the final project looks great, so it did a nice job. I don't know if we learned anything from that we would parlay into another building, which I've recommended to Alex, that when we get to that point for budgeting next year, that we look at the building in front of your building, so the
Already in the
Historical
works.
Society, so
Yeah, already working.
that'd be a great application for that type of building. Okay.
And actually, if you haven't been back to the library since they remounted the signs,
Yeah,
especially the one on the back, it really pops out now.
yeah, it looks
So-
good. Looks like a new building.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you,
Okay.
Board.
Thank you, Mr. Parks.
Thank you.
Next item is the biweekly report for the fire department on page 38. I'm sorry, this number there, but.
I have a
Page
lot of
37.
questions on 37.
Yeah, a lot of questions. I understand.
That is one ginormous page, excuse me, page break.
Okay, and if that was intentionally left blank? I
It
didn't see that
was,
on
and
there.
it's to keep the charts and the maps lined up on the subsequent pages.
Yeah.
So I apologize, it is
No worries.
confusing there.
Okay.
And then there was one other question on a couple of our training hours, and I
Yep,
just
I was
wanted
gonna
to point
ask
out.
that on 1.1.3.
Yes, sir.
With, as far as the NIMS training, why is it so high compared to last year, and why is hazmat training so low? Or
So,
historical, I should say.
yeah, hazmat is one of those trainings that is typically done in bulk one time a year. So if you look to the left, you'll see the little spark line, and it shows a little spike about 3 months ago. And that's when the department did the majority of their hazmat continuing education training. So folks will do a little bit here and there as they're going through the year if they need some hours, but the department as a whole does it at one time, consolidated, and it's usually in the spring. So you'll see a little variation, but not much in regards to that. NIMS, we're actually in an interesting period. Not only do we have the recent training of our new hires to get them up to speed, but all of us that were in the first wave of NIMS or Blue Card training, which is NIMS, Blue Card training is in the NIMS category. Those of us that finished our Blue Card training on the initial wave are all due for a recertification. So what you're going to see is an increase in hours as we all work on getting our continuing ed hours to make sure that we have enough to maintain our certifications going forward. So you'll see that continually, gradually increase, probably through the end of this year, early next year, and then it'll drop off until the next wave happens about a year from now.
Is there a way to monetize the value proposition of Blue Card training? I mean, can you?
Probably
What does it
not.
cost us, and what do we get out of it? I hate to be that.
Yeah, I don't think there is a way to. We could talk.
We could
Probably the
understand the
strongest.
cost.
Yeah, the strongest way to talk about it is the penalties if something were to happen and we didn't have that or something equivalent in place, because that would be a workers' compensation. What's the term I'm looking for? A specific violation of work rules. There's a term for that, but I can't remember what it is. But anyway, if it's one of those work rules we're required to have, and if we don't have it in place and somebody were hurt or killed, there would be substantial penalties in addition to whatever the workers' comp claims would be. So that's one of the places where we get hit from the Ohio Administrative Code pretty aggressively. And that happens not just for Blue Card Incident Command, but it also happens for fire gear, for ladders, for hoses, for SCBA, and those other types of things.
And I asked the question, and I've brought it up before, I'm an advocate for continuing education, I'm an advocate for continuous improvement. I'm a cautious advocate on certifications, and that just comes from previous life. Not to become, NASCAR, and we have 100 certifications, and we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep them up, and we're so busy it doesn't really help us, What does it actually do? What does it accomplish?
So
Just keeping that foresight.
Yes, sir. The positive thing about Blue Card of all of those, and actually I was a skeptic going in. Chief Young was an advocate and was one that convinced me through a number of discussions. And that is, Blue Card becomes the way we communicate amongst ourselves and with other agencies on every major incident. And so by introducing and training and then reinforcing and enforcing the credentialing, that keeps us all current on the training, which keeps us all at that same level of proficiency. And
Are
so,
the peers that you're communicating with doing the same thing?
to my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
So, for example, City of Kettering, City of Riverside, who are big-time mutual aid partners, they do it. Wright-Patterson is exploring it right now. City of Xenia is exploring it right now. And those are our major mutual aid partners. Fairborn, we'd like to have them do it. They've expressed interest, but they're not moving forward on it as of this time. But what you're gonna see is we're continuing to strengthen our mutual aid ties with the agencies that do use it, to our
But our two
benefit.
biggest mutual aid partners, Xenia and Fairborn, don't use it?
Xenia is in the process of starting it. Fairborn is evaluating, but they haven't chosen to go with it yet. But like I was just saying, we're gonna decrease the amount of mutual aid we do with Fairborn and increase it with the other partners to compensate for it, for the ones that are using it.
I'd say right, Pat, probably in regards to fire response, in the northern part of the town.
Yeah.
Township, both city and township, has a greater response role than Fairborn.
Yeah, Fairborn, we do a fair bit on the EMS side, but we don't do nearly as much with fire. Right, Pat, we do a lot with fire now. And so that's, again, where that balance kind of comes out. And this is the incident command structure from Blue Card is primarily around fire and those types of incidents. EMS incidents are usually single unit or 2 unit, and there's a very step-down version that applies. So it's not the same kind of priority for that type of incident.
Okay.
Although that type of incident is
And
a
again,
high
it's just-
type count
yeah,
for us.
It's strictly to make sure that we maintain an awareness of what our training costs and what our certification costs are,
Yes, sir.
so that we keep in front of us, has it met the value proposition of why we did it in the first place?
Yes, sir. And in this case, I can't quantify it, but I can tell you qualitatively that it's still a value proposition for us to continue.
Okay.
It's similar, Captain Williams is in the executive fire, or the Ohio Fire Officer Executive Program. We approved him to go earlier this year. And he's looking for a project. They all have to have a project as part of this. And we're having a very similar conversation about dollar loss. So one of the things the fire service is good at capturing is a theoretical dollar loss when we have a fire. What we're bad at doing is framing what that dollar loss means in terms of anything else that it could be related to. So whether it's dollar value saved or cumulative dollar value of the community or anything else. So because of the type of work we're in, we so often end up working and trying to describe negatives or justify negatives, or what could have happened versus what did happen.
Right.
And this fits in that same category. We don't have a good way to talk about it yet.
Just to point out too, the NIMS, or excuse me, the Blue Card certification does count as continuing education for your firefighting certification, which is a requirement of the state.
Yes.
So that
Good
does
point.
count for the hours that the crews need to recertify every 3 years.
Do we use it as that, or do we double dip and?
It's
have-
both.
We use it for both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blue Card only counts Blue Card training for its recertification, but our fire certification counts all training, including Blue Card, so we can use it for both categories.
Okay. I've asked my 20
Good point.
questions. Any other questions on fire?
Thank you, Board.
Ms. Frick,
Nothing.
Ms. Aaron's?
Just wanted to let you know that the auditors were in, so the audit's begun. They were in for 3 days. They're still, obviously doing work, but they're not on site anymore. They might come back, but for now, they've got what they've needed. Thank you to some of the staff who've helped out with that. Obviously, my office has been heavily involved, but I know that David and John were helpful with some issues as well, so it's ongoing.
Great, thank you. MVRPC,
No meeting.
anything from TAC to report?
There was a technical advisory committee meeting on the 16th. Mostly routine updates from the MBRPC staff. They've had some staffing changes. I can convey the full report on request.
Okay, thank you. Alex, if you don't mind just sharing that
Sure.
With the trustees. Mr. Roberts is not here on Greene County Regional Planning. Is there anything to report from Regional Planning meeting, the last one?
There was, the only Beavercreek Township business on the agenda this time was the creation of a parcel at River Reserve in order to convey a buffer strip to the Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
Buffering from the
A conservation, a conservation easement or an actual parcel that they're gonna,
It required a new section.
Okay.
In order to achieve that legal buffering.
thank you. Health Department, District Advisory.
It's
Nothing.
only an annual.
Schools, City Manager.
I'll be meeting with both, separately this week.
All right, and Right Pat Restoration Advisory. Anything new?
Nothing new. We should be having an update this fall in regards to the AFFF issue at the fire department. It has been removed from the fire department, but not some of the hangars. This committee may be involved a little bit. The chair also oversees the fire operations on base. So there may be some members of this committee working on the review of the active shooter threat issue.
Okay. Anything new from Greene County Township Association?
Nothing
Nothing
that,
to report.
Okay. In investment oversight, we, from the emails that Janet sent out, essentially the wheels are in motion, is what it appears. And that as we firm up costs on the fire station, then we'll proceed and finish that process.
We did transfer money,
Right.
but we had a lot of issues, so, a lot of IT issues.
It was a
Took a
security
while.
issue, so that's been set. So, for example, not everybody has, because of security reasons, we got to identify the people that have the ability to do like online banking issues. So that was a protocol issue, so we've addressed it.
Okay. Otherwise, if there's nothing else to come before the board, I'll look for a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to consider the appointment, employment, and compensation of a public employee.
so moved.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. It is 2:48 PM. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes. Is there anything else to come before the board? If not, a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn?
Second.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Kratz?
Yes.